that's where I realized I can really be capable of anything. And I don't have the boundaries of having to only do something in this town or in this city. And then in the city became to, I could do more in this country, and then from the country to like the whole world. And when you see it in such a broader spectrum like that, wanting and having the idea to maybe own a company in an amazing city like San Antonio all of a sudden doesn't seem so scary.
Welcome to Beating the Odds, the show about successful minority businesses and the entrepreneurs that created them. Their stories provide inspiration and advice for future minority business owners. I'm Patricia Koski, and on the show today we have Amber Ibarra, who gave up her entertainment and modeling career to start what has become a very successful fencing business. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So to start, tell us about your upbringing, education, your family, anything you want to share with us about your foundation.
So I was born and raised in Uvalde, Texas, about an hour southwest of San Antonio. I come from a pretty small family, have one sibling.
Did you go to college after you graduated from high school?
In high school, actually, I knew I wanted to move to the city, and I remember my father telling me, you cannot move until you graduate from high school. And of course that makes sense. I said, well, I'm going to graduate, but I wanted to move so bad. I actually took my first year of college and my last year of high school all within my junior year. So I was 16, turning 17 by the time I was graduating. So literally the day of graduation, all my friends are like, hey, come to this graduation party. It's going to be so much fun. And everyone's just, in celebration mode. I remember I was getting the last of my things in my graduation robe, packing my car because I was moving to New York City. I did not go to college right after that, actually. My thoughts were to travel, gain some life experience. I really had my eyes set on the Big Apple.
So what was it that drew you to New York?
I really love the city, and I've just always had it in my mind, if you make it in New York, that is it. And at this age in my mind, I just wanted to go full force towards it. I really grew up singing and in art and design and things like that. And so to me, New York just really portrayed and embodied everything I was interested in that point in my life. I had about 2 or 3 friends over there at the time. Being that young and trying to live in Manhattan is just nearly impossible. And I sang at piano bars, and I had worked and waitressed to make money to be able to, afford to take dance, because at the time I was highly influenced through Larry Nelson, who was like my mom, and took me under her wing at a really young age. And I was in the modeling industry during that time.
During that time when you were busy and hustling, do you think it was there that really kind of started this spark towards entrepreneurship?
I really think it was from a young age. If we can rewind a little, the lady I mentioned, Larry, she owns her own business. She's from Uvalde, just like I am, and she really kind of helped guide my life. She's owned her own business for many years. She runs a successful modeling agency, and she's in the entertainment industry. I just remember being in awe. She came from the same town that I did, and here she is, so successful, and all of her kids that she helped train, they're like on television, and some of them moved to California. And at this point in my life, it was such a huge deal, because the friends that I grew up with, no one ever thought about or wanted to even think about moving. She just really opened my mind to seeing that there's so much to experience out there, and that's where it really happened. I was about 14 when I met her, and she really switched the path in my life. That's where I realized I can really be capable of anything. And I don't have the boundaries of having to only do something in this town or in this city. And then in the city became to, I could do more in this country. And then from the country to like the whole world. And when you see it in such a broader spectrum like that, wanting and having the idea to maybe own a company in an amazing city like San Antonio all of a sudden doesn't seem so scary.
So you were in New York, you were building this career. At what point did you decide to go back to college?
I actually opted for the online route. The local college that I was going to offered those things, and so I figured, okay, I'm going to get an education. I was going for business originally with a minor in music, and I went through the first year And it was so hard because I was by myself and I was traveling and I paid for my own schooling. I was working 2 to 3 jobs. And there was a point where I was like, wow, I'm going to burn myself out. I could not do it all. Like, I need to focus on my studies and not work 14 hours a day, or I need to work and find out where I want to go in my life. And after the first year, I did opt out. It was a tougher decision to make because no one in my family had ever really gone through college. And I almost felt like I was disappointing my parents. My dad just really wanted to see me get an education, especially because him and my mom didn't even finish high school. It just wasn't my path. That wasn't the route he wanted me to take, but now he does live in San Antonio. I'm so close to my parents, and they're just always rooting for pretty much what makes me happy. But yeah, that was my schooling, 1 full year. Life did the rest, for sure.
At what point did you say, I need to move back to Texas?
After traveling for many years, I hadn't lived back in Texas for over a decade. It was literally 10 years that went by, and I was just amazed at the development of the city. But most importantly, outside of that, I really did move back for family. My dad had gotten really sick, and my parents went through a divorce, and my mom was living by herself, and my little brother was the only sibling I have. He's finishing up the years of his high school. He had finished up, and he was going through a different phase in his life, and I just thought, I have missed so much in seeing my little cousins grow up and seeing my brother turn into a teenager and helping my mom with this divorce and being there for my dad. And as we all know, the biggest driving force of most people's passions is your love for your family, or your love for where you see yourself in the next few years with trying to build yourself and your career goals, things like that. I actually left an amazing job in Atlanta. That's where I lived right before I moved to Texas. To be honest, I had not planned on that point in time in staying in Texas. I had got a job offer in Los Angeles, California, and it had been a few years since I lived in Cali, so I thought to myself, okay, let me spend some time with my family. I had about 6 months to decide whether I wanted to take this position or not, and I ended up getting an amazing job producing events in my hometown. Eventually, I had moved to San Antonio, and that is where I met my business partner. I just remember him saying, I really love your work ethic. You have so much potential. At this point, I'm telling him, yeah, I'm getting ready to move to Los Angeles, you know. That's where the brainstorming and all of the thoughts of building this fencing business really came about. So it kind of came full circle.
So when did you come up with the idea for your first business?
The idea for the first business came about almost 4 years ago. I've tried things that I thought I might have loved and then kind of went a different path. And I have done design, I've done interior design, and I've worked with homes and home building and really the creative side of things I've been a part of. And when I met my business partner, he was already running a successful business of his own, and he's been building homes for the last many years. And so this really came about because when I was in Atlanta, I was an entrepreneur, but back there I was producing events, I was a photographer, I did some design, things like that, and he's an amazing businessman. So he told me, look, I'm building homes right now. I have so much on my plate. I want to offer to you this. If you are willing to brainstorm with me and we could think of maybe we'll do an interior design business. We had so many different ideas. We literally just sat down and he thought, okay, I'm more of a businessman. You're more of the creative person. You love marketing and PR and have so much knowledge in this field. Let's collide them both. It was almost like schooling because he was so amazing at business. And I've learned so much in the last 3 years that I feel no school could have ever taught me. It's just been amazing.
I want to take a second to thank one of our sponsors, PCR Solutions. PCR transforms the way your finance and accounting teams work. They help finance teams turn data into actionable information and assist clients with selecting and implementing the right enterprise technology for their business. To find PCR, look them up at pcrsolutionsllc.com. It sounds like the way that you guys met, he was really investing and that he really saw that potential in you and wanted you to come on board no matter what the business idea was.
It really was like that. And I have to say, I've been so blessed because Some people might have one person saying, hey, you remember that idea you had a year ago? You should really go for it. There are those kind of people, and we shouldn't take them for granted because not everyone wants to see you successful, and not everyone will think that you have the capability to achieve your bigger vision. And I feel like I've been blessed to where, once again, Larry Nelson and all these different people in my life not only told me, hey, I see this potential in you, but they really helped push me in the right direction for that. I definitely would not be here if it weren't these people, and Roy is definitely one of those people, especially in showing me the ropes of the business aspect of it, which when you're looking into the construction field is completely different than the business that I ran in Atlanta, Georgia, and in New York, and in Miami, because, again, I went from a world of singing and modeling and acting and being a professional photographer and creative director to being in the construction world, especially as a woman. It really is a male-dominated industry. Most people like to think that most industries are like that, but when it comes to construction, it really is. And so I've been a work in progress as far as being able to become such a firm, strong woman who's 100% on the decisions she makes, because at the end of the day, your crew and your business partners and your customers all have to rely on the fact that when you make a decision, you're really doing it for the best of everyone. And to gain that kind of respect from people, especially when you're working with your crews and things, you have to prove it by action. And if there's anything I've been proud of to this point is just earning the trust and respect from the people that I'm working with.
So you guys own Fenceline Works, and you guys have been in business about 3 years. How many employees do you have?
We have, I'd say, about 20.
Wow.
I'm just blown away at how successful Fenceline has been. I mean, most companies don't see profit within their first year of business, and we were making profits and growing by 30, 40, 50% in the first 6 months. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that Roy brought his knowledge to the table and trusted my vision and allowed me to take the reins on the company. He was like, look, I'm going to help you with getting started with this. And if you have any questions in the business aspect, let me know. And in return, the best thing that he gave me was the freedom to manage this business how I thought it should be. And from there, I was just able to grow, and I was just so motivated because I had no limitations on this.
You have quite a success story, and you and Roy have built this very successful business, but were there any moments where you were worried about if this whole thing would actually work?
Oh, my God, of course I was. He approached me with this amazing idea. At this time, we didn't know what field we were going to get in. All the money that I had to move to Los Angeles, I put into this company. And Roy put in a lot of money that he saved from his other company that he had to invest in this company. And that off the bat scared me. There's no turning back. I'm not moving to LA. Like, everything I thought that I was planning for 6 months ago changed within a month's time. That's how long it took me to really think, am I going to go through with this? And remember, at this point, I really didn't even know this individual. I just knew his background was similar to mine, and I think that's where we really gained a trust in our business partnership, because he came to the United States not even knowing how to speak English, and he didn't come from a wealthy family either, so we both know the struggles of wanting to have a vision and make it, and to be that kind of quote-unquote lone wolf trying to make it by yourself. I mean, I traveled for many years with my family back here in Texas, and there were times where I didn't have money to visit them for years. Holidays, birthdays, none of that, and he knew what that was like.
You were taking a huge risk. You had money on the line, and you were giving up your dream as an entertainer, this career that you had already built up. You were about to move to LA. Why take the risk?
I had some of my family ask me that, and if there's one thing that I learned being on my own from such a young age, it's the fact that no matter what the outside world tells you, every time I trusted my gut or my intuition on something, I never regretted my decision. And so even though it seemed like the thing that made sense to move back to Los Angeles or go back to what I had already built myself doing, I can always go back to it. I built success in that part of my life already. The answer to your question is it just felt right. And I was so excited about this new venture. In San Antonio, not only do I have the fencing company with Roy, but I'm an investor. I have multiple properties in this city now and properties I'm building on and rezoning, and I have so many dreams and aspirations in this field, and this business got me there. But the first year of this business was so difficult. It wasn't up until this year that I was able to breathe. The first year and a half was so intense and so grueling. I have so much respect to business owners because you are one person who embodies it all. And you have to be. And to build a reputation like that, you have to be on top of everything. I was the person doing the marketing, doing the accounting. I'd call the customers, make the appointments, drive to each appointment. And I'm talking about 250 to 300 miles on the road a day. And in between this, having to make sure that you are making those phone calls and you are following up with your customers. And aside from that, I had never driven a trailer in my life, and here I am driving a truck with a 24-foot trailer, parking it at customers' houses, being the face of the company, being the on-site manager, also making sure you're on top of your new customers, making sure if there are any old customers that have questions that you were doing that, managing the calendars. I mean, the list just goes on, and for a year and a half straight, it was 7 a.m. till about 1 o'clock in the morning. 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., you're working with people. And after that, you are in your office, making sure that everything is correct with your finances. You're making sure emails get answered in between that also, anything you might have missed through the day. And it's 7 days a week.
What kept you motivated through that? Was it because you had skin in the game, or were you just really passionate about this job? What kept you going?
First of all, my number one goal was that I made this commitment, and I made this commitment to myself. And I made this commitment to my business partner that had invested in this with me. And there's just no way in hell I was going to give up on it. It was so tough the first year and a half because I was running this business. In the first year, we had all these profits. But remember, we also had so many different crew members to pay, and we had new trailers to buy, and we had new equipment that we had to purchase. And we had to spend so much in marketing because we had to get our name out there in order to grow this company. So for the first year and a half, I was so broke, not able to do anything. In order to make money, you have to do so much yourself. And it's just one of those things. If you don't love it and you don't feel like you're ready for it, you're not going to be successful in doing it because it takes a whole lot more than just feeling a little passionate about it. It takes so much consistency. You have to keep your mind focused. And sometimes that can feel like a bad thing. I know I personally have lost friends. They just get tired of inviting you out or, hey, when are you going to make time for me? And some people get offended by that. You really have to give up a lot on the other end to really stick with your goals. And it gets really difficult sometimes, but to me, that's a good thing. Because then that's when you see how much you want it. And if you wanted it bad enough, you're going to get through all of it somehow. It shows you so much about your own self. And if anything, the funnest part to me was that I thought I had limits of what I could do. And through this company, I broke all of those limitations. I found out how hard I was capable of working physically, how hard I was capable of working with and dealing with stress mentally. And that's what really also got me into finishing the book that I'm writing.
So, Amber, ambition or talent, what means more to success?
Ambition, definitely. I've met so many talented people that feel either entitled or they feel, oh, I'm going to go knock this job interview or this audition or any one of those things out of the ballpark. And the person that is going to be a little more ambitious, who's willing to work harder, who's willing to study because they know that they don't know everything and they're willing to learn. To me, that's the person that will always come out on top. You can maybe be, more intelligent than I am. You might have the background or degree, but you cannot outwork me. You can always become more talented by learning and allowing yourself to grow in the field that you choose.
So if you are giving advice to an aspiring entrepreneur right now, what is the biggest challenge they're going to face?
I would say the biggest challenge is going to be self-doubt. I don't care how inspired you are and how motivated, there will be a time in your early career or when you're in your first year of business that you are going to doubt, was this the right decision? Holy crap, I just spent every penny that I had on this dream. Is it going to be worth it? Do it anyway. Don't let any of the outside people tell you that you're going to fail because you are in control of that. Follow your gut, follow your intuition. If you had enough passion and enough strength to get into that place in your life in the first place, Don't forget that you did it for a reason, and always go back to the core of why you thought it was such a good idea in the first place. And that will always give you that passion and fuel to just keep going. Anything is possible. I had very few resources. I didn't come from money. I don't have a lot of money. It's about being resourceful and using anything and everything around you, whether that be the people you know or trying to get out there just in any way.
Are there any specific challenges that you faced as a minority entrepreneur that others may not face?
That's a great question. I've never looked at it like that. Anywhere I've gone, so for instance here in San Antonio, I'm a Hispanic woman, and I understand some people might see me as a minority, and there's so many Hispanic, most of the population is that. And then when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, every audition I went to, I was one of the few Hispanic women. So I've gotten so many different sides of the spectrum when it comes to that. I don't think it was necessarily harder. I did grow up in a pretty traditional Hispanic family. So the hardest thing to me isn't me as an adult now. It was me when I was growing up in Uvalde and wanting to know that there was nothing wrong with wanting to have a dream and not live in my small town. I think the hardest thing, if anything, is maybe the age that you're at and maybe not being, well into your 30s sometimes. I had the most trouble with people trying to take me serious when I was, 21 years old and owned a photography business and was traveling and modeling and doing campaigns. And it was moments like that I found it a little difficult. I always felt like I had to prove to people, I feel so much older than I am. But as a minority, I don't think it's been harder. I haven't looked at it that way too much. I think we're all capable. I think the only restrictions you have are the restrictions that you yourself put on you, whether that be in your education or a business you want to start or the schooling that you've always wished to go back to, anything like that.
I just love that you took that creative path and then ended up in the fencing business, but it totally makes sense how you got there. For our listeners, tell us what you're working on right now and where can we find you?
As far as what I'm working on now and where people can find me, I do have a website, and it's just amberibarra.com. You can find some of my blog postings there. You can find information on my projects that I'm working on now. I have my fencing company, of course. You could just go to Fence Line Works. If you plug that into Google, it'll show you everywhere that we're listed for those residential commercial customers who need a new fence. On the other spectrum of it, I am working on an inspirational book that is called You Are the Key, and that is set to be published by end of December. So definitely look out for it at the beginning of 2018. If you want any more details or want to know what it's about, again, just go to my website, amberibarra.com.
Well, Amber, your success story is very inspiring, and we can't wait to share it. So thank you so much for talking with us today and allowing us to share your story with aspiring entrepreneurs everywhere.
Thank you so much for having me.